Welcome back everybody, it's DestinysJesus here. In this video I'm basically breaking down all of the tips and tricks and everything that I need to learn to work on in the future from all of our mistakes that we made from Archer FNCS week 1. We basically got 126 points in the opens. We had a couple bad games with game crashes, but there was still a load of mistakes that we made as a trio and a load of mistakes that I made as an IGL that would be really important for you guys to learn from coming into the future of the FNCS weeks if you guys want to improve and place better. As always, make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, and also subscribe if you're new. In our first game, we were way too confident at W King. We'd already won our spawn fight, our Holly Hedges, so we just tried to W King and take another fight versus this team mid-game. They ended up being really good, and you can see how many mats they used here just to get away from us, and basically this is just the point. Don't take a fight that you don't need mid-game. We had everything we needed to do well this end game. We get all these knocks, but we're basically full shambles for the rest of the game. I ended up getting knocked here back in Storm from the guy the whole way back in Storm, and then our teammate had to clutch up and get out Storm with just the reboot cards. Especially when it comes to Storm fights, even in your first game, if you're not comfortable taking a fight, make sure you don't actually go ahead and take it, since it can scuff your entire tourney, and your first game is always going to be the easiest in opens. Because of the point that I just made, the fact that your first game is going to be your easiest, it means you can get away with the most. Normally, I would recommend just trying to throw away this game, especially because there's no chance you can really reboot, but especially because these players aren't the best. We know if we do reboot, there is a potential of us getting some refresh kills and some loot. Our teammate makes the perfect play where he goes and reboots just behind the van, behind all his cover. We all get up and make sure we trade shotguns around, so we're all pretty stacked to go for just a jump in play. Again, this is going to be your easiest lobby of the entire day, so you need to make sure that it's worth it in terms of what points you can get from it. Don't throw this opportunity away when you could get a good game just by getting another impact kill. You can see here what we do is we all wait on this edit, beam this guy as he comes forward. The servers are so laggy, and then I hit some clutch shots as these guys jump into our box when we're 1 HP.
I got sniped from behind you.
Again here, even though the fact that we're completely shambles and both of my teammates have died, I know this is going to be a really easy lobby and we can get another refresh impact kill just like that if I get the reboots off. So somehow I double reboot in the first game during the third zone when it's closing to fourth, and then we're able to rotate in.
Holding. Snipe one, I've got no builds. I sniped one. No, just leave me, maybe, I don't know.
I've absolutely no clue how, but somehow my teammates were able to clutch up a 3v2 there as I get knocked when I was going for the counter snipe with no mats, and we somehow get the res off. Again, this is one of those games, we've been in this game for like 20 minutes at this point. You can't throw it away before you get endgame placement points. You need to try to get everybody up and alive endgame, and then go for the best endgame possible. We tarp in towards first moving, and then because we're pretty stacked to mats, we take no risks. We don't need to go for a kill. We can all just chill and go for a box up on moving zones together. Right here on ninth zone, we basically should be playing together and trying to peek our angles. My teammate is floppers, so he should be trying to play those for as long as possible, but we need to get this kill on the solo and low ground with us to secure top 2. You can see I exploit in the floor without any comms, need to communicate out with my teammate, and my teammate goes out in front of zone trying to take the height on fight. There's basically just bad synergy and teamwork, especially since it's the first time playing together, and I get this guy 15 HP in Storm. If we got that kill right there, that would have been a really spectacular first game with like 18 elims or something ridiculous, and getting second place as well for bonus points. Always try to figure out if you can kill the last solo remaining, or whether you should play heal off like my teammate probably should have done when he had floppers as well. If any of you guys are interested in actually watching me live, I should be streaming the Cash Cup today, as well as all future tournaments and viewing parties for them as well. So make sure to go give my Twitch a follow. We just hit 40k, which is a huge milestone for me especially. This is just a quick tip for any of you guys who are IGLs and watching this video. Always make sure you mark the edge of 50-50 zone when you're rotating in. It's also applicable in earlier zones or in later moving zones. You can see here, my teammate wanted to ramp this other team that was based up in zone, but I had my map marker down on the actual edge of zone, and I realized this is natural height on this hill where we're gonna have this elevation, and we have a really high chance of getting 50-50 zone if it pulled this way. Now, as we go into moving of this second game, again, this is just one of those games where all 3 of you want to stay alive and try to play together for as long as possible. This is a big mistake when I was doing this mid-ground tarp, is we had 3 high ground here. High ground is so unaware, and my teammate's just drinking big pot of Bacazorm, and I'm not calling for my other teammates to be looking for it with me. If I went and ramped out from the front side, my teammates could easily attack high ground from different sides and crank up or bounce up. Instead, I went for a snipe, absolutely missed because I'm abysmal with a sniper and I need to practice, and then we just give up height completely. It might not be the best play for going for height now, considering we're zone pulled next, but it's just one of those things. If you have the opportunity to go for high ground, especially at the end of first moving, when not too many people are looking for it, it can be so worth it. Here, another massive mistake that I always do when it comes to trios and rotating, mainly because I don't play enough scrims, is I bouncer and I don't con where I'm landing. I'm just like randomly attacking this guy for like 10 damage in the air, which is really abysmal aim by me, and then I get into the position in zone and my teammates are completely split. You can see they've landed on the back right side of zone and I'm completely solo out front side by myself. Now here I rotate again, not really looking where my teammates are, just trying to play solo and survive for as long as possible and wait for my teammates to get to me. End up getting a kill here, but my teammate goes down on the backside of zone, and this basically whole endgame is pretty much thrown. We do actually get top 3 or top 2 in this game, just because we both clutched up and actually got some placement, but we weren't playing together at all. We were just completely solo, and that mainly comes down to me as an IGL not calling for that height play earlier, which we could have had it, and also not calling where we were landing off that bouncer. If you have the IGL leading your trio, or any situation where you're leading a trio off a bouncer, make sure you mark and exclusively com where you want to land and where you're aiming for. So after those first 2 really good games, we got third with a bunch of kills and second with a bunch of kills as well. We got onto our third game and we basically had a complete blunder. As you can see here, the Rainbow's Rentals place was unlooted, but it was unfished, which was really weird to me. I thought these other guys had gone towards Slurpee, so I just came over here to fish really safely. And then as I got back towards my teammates, my teammate commed that he heard somebody in this building. We ended up basically looking around for these guys in this building for a while, and the way you want to do this is 100%. It needs to be way more safe, it needs to be completely grouped up together, because as you can see here, there was a full trio hiding behind a box that all jumped at me, had a little cardiac arrest as I was sitting in my gaming chair, and then I was completely boxed and dead instantly. My teammates ended up losing this 2v3, and that kind of threw our momentum going into this tournament, mainly because we didn't know how to come back after losing such a good game where we had that really good streak. The important thing whenever you have a bad game like this is always try to reset your team's mental, and especially try to keep them positive going into the next game. This is just one mistake that I learned from playing this FNCS. It's the fact that I'd always never asked for my teammates bounce before. When I'm IGLing, I'm pretty much always the guy calling the rotates and going first, so I need to have the bouncers before going to endgame. You can see I'm asking for my teammate during the second moving zone as soon as it's pulling far. We're below surge, the zone is max distance, this is a really bad situation, and then to top it all off, I can't even pick up the bouncer because I get coned. Now we get completely scuffed because on my backside, I placed a really bad bouncer, which is my own mistake. My teammates couldn't get it without tanking Storm when they were already low whites. And then we end up rotating. Again, we're starting to get zapped by Storm Surge here, and we end up completely split. If you're an IGL and you know you're going to need bouncers, make sure you call it early enough where you don't have that massive risk where you have to ask for them mid-end game. Probably the better option as well is to have a trio where you're dynamic enough where you can all do different roles. One of you can go for bounce plays, one of you can go for the rotate calls, and basically have a good backup support player. In our current trio setup, we basically have 2 fraggers and then me just kind of doing all the hard work with the tarping and IGLing, which isn't the best setup, mainly because you can have run into errors like that. Luckily, my fragger Fury is absolutely insane, and he actually got a kill on pack side of zone, and that kind of saved us this game. In this endgame, Fury basically ended up playing floppers the whole way back in Storm, trying to secure as much placement as possible. It's always very important whenever you're in these endgame situations, the fact I called plays right here, meaning that you can go towards the right and then move forward. It allows Fury to basically just save all that thought process where he doesn't need to think about where zone's pulling, and he gets it called for him, and then he can keep rotating. So this is one of our last games, I think our third to last game, and we basically had a big mistake on this rotate here. You can see how good our mats, if I've been dropped mats by my teammate, but also the fact that we have bouncers. In my opinion, it's probably best to try to go for a little bit of a bouncer play and save some of your mats. This is something I learned from Janice, Hen and Chapix, who've been dominating in trios recently, just when the FNCS finals week. It's the fact they always try bouncing whenever possible. Even though I can go for a really cheap tarp here and just keep forward and then go for surge, obviously, it's not really worth it. We end up getting an impact kill just on a player that we boxed up, but it's not worth it, mainly because we get server sprayed and we're not able to get the most of the mats from it. Oftentimes, if you kill somebody at the back end of a tarp, it's not even worth it, mainly because they don't have that many mats and they've dropped mats already to their teammate who's going to be leading. As you can see here, again, this is a perfect opportunity to go for a little bit of a bouncer play and save some mats, but instead I just full tarp it and waste so many as we come forward. This means that we basically don't get an impact kill till much later on. Get scuffed a little bit again by Surge, not the best Surge man at our half, where we're not getting enough tags mid-game. And then end-game, we're completely split again, all panicking, running out of mats and Surge, getting pressured by loads of different people, and we're basically all just playing shambles backside on zone. Again, you can see how powerful that bouncer I used there. Just when I used it solo, got me the whole way to front side and pushed me in a way better spot, and it conserved all my mats. Now in a position here where I can basically just chill and get all the placement possible. Get jumped on by full trio, so I just have to get out and run away. and then clutch up some more placement points as a solo here. In one of our last games, I make a really bad positional call as an IGL that you should probably never make, and it's basically a lesson learned for you guys. Even if the lobby is not that stacked, only 57 left on second to third closing, you can see here, I drop down and go into like a weird mountain goat on the edge of this ravine. It's a good spot to save mats, but it's not good for surge or for rotates later on, especially if it pulls more towards the east side, which is end up doing. Zone pulled really far east, loads of players in our way just looking at us, and it's going to be completely scuffed to move through here. Again, we got 2 max distance east zones the whole way that way. Zone pulled max distance on 50-50 up a hill, and this basically just meant that we weren't able to get any refreshes despite our attempt at trying to get surge. And then also we had a really tough job of trying to rotate up this hill later on. You can see here, completely shambles, absolutely nothing to our names, and we have to play on endgame like this, which did not go well at all. Ended up all just basically just playing solo and getting split. In these type of situations, we are completely scuffed. Probably the best thing that I can recommend is all 3 just playing right next to each other. It's kind of a weird term where you basically, not going to say it on YouTube because it's probably going to be demonetized, but you guys should know what I mean, where you basically just play completely compacted with each other and stick together as much as possible. Here we could have bounced and rotated forward. Instead, our teammate got split on back end. All we had to do was come left there and avoid and just come down towards zone, and we were able to get a kill and then rotate with bouncers later on. Instead, he dies and then it's completely scuffed to us playing this out as a duo with no mats. It's not going to go well at all.
Come back.
In our second to last game, the worst thing possible that can happen during a Fortnite tournament happens. Our teammate completely DCs and basically just crashes. I think his Windows updated middle of the tournament for some reason, and this means that we're going to have to play at this pretty stacked in-game as a duo. One tip that I can have for you guys if you're playing as a duo is you need to try to use movement as much as possible, because your mats are going to be nowhere near as good as the other trios in the game. We tried to do this throughout first moving as a duo, just sticking together, trying to use as much movement as possible and just spam bouncers. But again, I have this another big mistake where as I go for this bouncer play forward, I don't really comm for my teammate. He ends up dropping on me on the middle of moving, which takes storm, and then we're very scuffed here. We're trying to use them. A bounce on the left wall, which is pretty much decent, and then I end up going the whole way to low ground. Looking back, this is so frustrating to see, mainly because it just puts me in a layer with a full trio that are going to box me because I'm a solo. I'm between so many teams, everybody around me is looking at me at the same point, everybody is edits on us from all different directions, and we go down. I died with floppers and extra bouncers, and about 700 mats as well. In our very last game of the trio FNCS week 1, probably the worst thing that can happen during a tournament, apart from a game crash, happens to both of my teammates. Headshot sniped from 200 meters away. Pretty unfortunate, but as we go over to get him and try to rescue the situation and reboot, another bad thing happens to my other teammate.
What?
Headshot sniped while in a car, and then as I run away, I get body shot sniped by the same guy, and we basically just completely has to dip. Now, in this game, probably the main thing to take away is the fact that you do need to play it out. We can't really queue at this point, and the fact that we need to go for as many points as possible. I played in Storm for a long time trying to get my teammates reboot without getting W keyed as a solo, especially because that team is probably very kill hungry at this point after getting 2 of my teammates' civilians. I get one of the players rebooted, I get Fury up, and we basically have to play this out as a duo. Make sure our surge management is really good, and also make sure that we're trying to clutch up as many points in this end game. One really important thing when it comes to being dead and just realizing the game is completely stacked is who you can actually go for kills on if they're getting surged. Our teammate here can actually see who's getting zapped by surge in a second, which allows us to go for these really crucial kills and then rotate towards those guys as well since they had zone. As you can see here, we basically pushed over towards all that extra loot from those guys that we actually killed, and we're able to get all of this good position in 50-50 zone just because of those surge awareness or who's getting zapped. And again, here we get a max distance up and over the hill, so we just have to play as a duo, try to make sure that we get in a really good position when we go over the top of these people and get through zone as quick as possible. You don't want to spend too much time on backside. Try to find the path for the least congestion, which in this case was just going wide and around and then going up and over. You need to find a spot where you can recycle a bouncer because there's no way you can top this zone, and also make sure you put yourself in a position where you can go for a refresh later on. I think the biggest thing we messed up on this game was just not playing together enough where we tried to go for a refresh. You can see here we should have taken that bouncer earlier and put ourselves in a more forward position where we could go for a refresh. Instead, I'm just tarping, trying to get my teammate in a good position as we move forward, and this just isn't good enough. We need a bunch of kills here to actually qualify, and we need to make sure they get a big enough refresh where we're able to get the loot from that into getting good placement in this end game. On the end of the zone, I ended up getting fought by Solo, who's completely shambles, and I solo challenged him and then got killed by the other guy from behind as well. If we'd maybe dropped down to low together there, or just a bit more front side, we'd be in a much better spot to actually get one of those kills and then get the loot as well. That was just left up to Fury to actually solo clutch, and he wasn't able to do it and get enough points this end game. Big thing going to next week is just trying to make sure that you improve your consistency throughout the games for us especially. We had such a good start in terms of points, and then we kind of messed up our last games with a couple of game crashes and headshot snipes, which is pretty unfortunate. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and can learn a couple new things for trios and trying to implement some strategies from top tier pros that I'm trying to do with my Randy trio. We're basically playing last minute and trying to do as best to our abilities. Next week, I can pretty much guarantee that we're going to try qualing. Need to make sure that we keep up the good pace that we had in the first half of this tournament and not mess up as so many games towards the end like we did. As always, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and also subscribe if you're new.